You want to know why we ended up on Earth? Fine. Sit down, because this is going to take a minute, and honestly, you probably won't believe half of it anyway. That my name is Vrell, and I'm what you humans would call a politician, though that word doesn't quite capture the sheer amount of paperwork and existential dread involved. I represented the Kvalix homeworld in the Galactic Council, which sounds impressive until you realize the Galactic Council is basically a glorified homeowners association with weapons capable of cracking planets like eggs. The whole mess started 3 cycles ago when the Dracian hive decided our entire species was, and I quote, an ecological liability to the greater galactic community. Apparently, our method of photosynthesis released trace amounts of methane, and the Drexians, being the uptight germaphobes they are, couldn't handle it. They filed a formal complaint. Then another. Then they called for a vote, an extermination vote. I still remember sitting in that chamber, my 3 hearts pounding against my chest cavity hard enough to crack ribs. The council chambers were massive, floating in the void between stars, and every species had sent their representatives. The Zorgothi with their crystalline exoskeletons. The Morpheus Collective, who didn't even have bodies, just clouds of angry gas with voting privileges. The Terrans, quiet in the back, looking small and pink and utterly unremarkable. The vote began. Species after species raised their appendages, tentacles, or energy fields in favor of wiping us out. The Zorgothi voted yes. The Morpheus Collective voted yes. Even the peaceful Quilvan, who claimed they'd never hurt a fly, voted yes. Apparently, our methane emissions were more offensive than genocide. I watched the tally climb. 57 votes in favor. 12 against. We needed 30 against to survive. This is it, whispered Kenna, my aide, her voice trembling through her translator implant. We're done. The Terran delegate stood up. Ambassador Marcus Webb, a middle-aged human with graying hair and eyes that had seen too much. He didn't look like a hero. He looked tired, actually, like someone who'd just worked a double shift and really wanted to go home. Earth votes no, he said simply. The chamber erupted. You can't be serious, screeched the Dracian representative, its mandibles clicking furiously. Have you analyzed the data? The methane levels could increase by 0.003% over the next millennium. Marcus just stared at them. Yeah, we saw your data. We also saw that you're advocating for killing 10 billion sentient beings over a gas emission roughly equivalent to what my Uncle Larry produces after Thanksgiving dinner. I nearly laughed. Nearly. Hard to laugh when your entire species is on the chopping block. This sets a dangerous precedent, another delegate argued. If we don't maintain ecological standards, then what? Marcus interrupted. We start executing species for breathing wrong? Where does it end? You want to talk about dangerous precedents? Let's talk about normalized genocide. The vote continued, but something had shifted. 3 more species changed their votes to no. Then 2 more. We were still going to lose, but at least we'd lose with witnesses who gave a damn. Final tally. 61 for extermination, 39 against that we'd lost. Kenna collapsed beside me, sobbing. Other delegates from our homeworld were already making calls, trying to warn families, scrambling to launch whatever evacuation ships we had. 10,000 people. That's all we could save from a population of billions. 10,000 out of 10 billion. I sat there, numb, watching the council adjourn for lunch like they hadn't just sentenced an entire civilization to death. Marcus found me in the corridor afterward. I'm sorry, he said, and he actually meant it. I tried to convince others, but they don't care, I finished. They never did. He nodded slowly, then pulled out a data tablet. Listen, this is going to sound crazy, but hear me out. You've got 10,000 evacuation slots, right? Yes, I said bitterly. 10,000 survivors for a species of billions. Quite the legacy. Bring them to Earth. I stared at him. What? Bring them to Earth, he repeated. We'll take them. All 10,000. We'll figure out the logistics, but we've got space, we've got resources, and apparently, we're one of the few species in this galaxy who thinks mass murder is bad. So our moral bar is pretty low right now. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? He didn't. He looked dead serious, actually, which was somehow more terrifying than the joke would have been. Your government will never approve it, I said. 10,000 refugees? The logistics alone. My government, Marcus said with a slight smile, just voted against your extermination when literally everyone else said yes. We're not great at following the crowd. And that's how it started. That's how 10,000 Kvalix refugees ended up heading toward a little blue planet in an unremarkable solar system, hoping that humanity's apparent insanity might actually be our salvation. Spoiler alert. It was so much weirder than that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The journey to Earth took 2 months, which gave me plenty of time to panic. They're going to eat us, Kenna said on day 15, staring at the data files about humans she'd downloaded from the Galactic Archives. Look at this. They're apex predators. They have forward-facing eyes, Vrell. Forward-facing eyes. So do we, I pointed out. Yes, but we evolved from herbivores who needed depth perception to jump between trees. They evolved from pack hunters who chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. There's a difference. I looked at the file she was reading. Human history was, admittedly, alarming. They'd spent most of their existence killing each other over resources, ideology, slightly different interpretations of the same religions, and in one notable case, a bucket. An actual bucket. But they'd also created art, music, literature. They'd gone from hitting each other with rocks to splitting atoms in less than 10,000 years. They'd looked at the impossible distances between stars and said, yeah, we'll figure that out eventually. And then they actually did it. They were terrifying and beautiful and absolutely insane. Perfect hosts for a desperate refugee population, really, that we arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because Marcus met us at the landing site and apologized for the timing. Sorry about the Tuesday thing, he said as we disembarked. Mondays are bad, Wednesdays are our halfway point, so people are cranky. Tuesdays are optimal for major life changes and potential cultural integration disasters. You schedule things around weekdays? I asked. You don't. Fair point. The landing site was in a place called New Mexico, which was neither particularly new nor anywhere near Mexico, according to my maps. Humans, I was learning, were terrible at naming things. We were greeted by hundreds of them, holding signs with messages I had to translate. Welcome refugees. We stand with Kvalix. And inexplicably, Roswell finally got real aliens. Ignore that last one, Marcus said quickly. Local joke. Long story. Involves a weather balloon and decades of conspiracy theories. A woman approached, extending her hand. I'd learned this was a human greeting, though why they insisted on touching each other's primary manipulators was beyond me. Ambassador Vrell, she said warmly. I'm Director Patel, head of the Refugee Integration Program. We've prepared housing, medical facilities, and orientation programs. We know this is overwhelming, so we're taking it slow. Slow was a relative term. Within 3 days, we were enrolled in something called Earth 101, taught by an enthusiastic human named Gregory who seemed personally offended that we didn't understand coffee. It's liquid energy, he explained, holding up a cup. We drink it to simulate alertness when our bodies desperately need sleep. Why not just sleep? Kenna asked reasonably. Gregory looked at her like she'd suggested setting money on fire. Because capitalism, Kenna. Capitalism. I still don't fully understand what capitalism is, but apparently, it involves being perpetually exhausted and considering that normal. The other refugees adapted faster than I expected. Mora, our agricultural specialist, discovered human gardening and became obsessed with something called tomatoes. Jex, our engineer, partnered with a human named Ling to retrofit our breathing apparatus into something less bulky. Children from both species played together in the resettlement center, language barriers dissolving into laughter and games that needed no translation. But not everything was smooth. That on day 23, the Galactic Council sent a formal complaint. Earth was harboring ecological criminals and faced sanctions. Marcus's response was a masterclass in diplomatic middle fingers. The Council, he wrote, can respectfully shove their sanctions into whatever orifice their species uses for waste disposal. Earth recognizes the sovereignty of living beings over bureaucratic nonsense. Signed, Ambassador Webb, representing a planet that apparently has higher moral standards than an entire galaxy. The Council threatened military action. Earth responded by parking 3 warships in orbit and broadcasting a message, come try it. They didn't. Turns out humans have a reputation in certain military circles. Something about refusing to surrender even when mathematically defeated, and weaponizing absolutely everything, including kitchen appliances and strongly worded letters. Why did you do this? I asked Marcus one evening, Watching the sunset paint Earth's sky in colors our homeworld never had. Why risk everything for strangers? He was quiet for a moment, sipping his coffee. You remember World War II? Big conflict on our planet, century and a half ago. I nodded. I'd read about it. Horrifying stuff. There was a diplomat named Chun Sujihara. Marcus continued. Japanese guy working in Lithuania when things got really bad. He was supposed to follow orders, keep his head down, not make waves. Instead, he spent weeks writing transit visas by hand, saving thousands of refugees from certain death. His government told him to stop. He didn't. Cost him his career, his reputation, everything. Why did he do it? I asked. Marcus smiled. Someone asked him that once. He said when he saw people in need, he couldn't just walk away. Had to do something, even if it was small, even if it cost him. That's humanity in a nutshell, Vrell. We're a mess. We're contradictory. We make terrible decisions, and we name things badly. But when it counts, when someone needs help and everyone else is walking away, we're the idiots who turn around. I looked at the settlement behind us, at Kvalix and humans working together, building something new from the ashes of what we'd lost. You're calling yourselves idiots? I said. Absolutely, Marcus grinned. But we're the idiots who said no when everyone else said yes. Sometimes being an idiot is the most human thing you can do. 10,000 refugees on a strange world, protected by a species too stubborn to follow orders and too compassionate to look away. The Galactic Council called it foolishness, that we called it home. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.